Good evening. I will now call to order the Chesterfield Township Planning Commission meeting on May 21st, 2024. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. I will call the roll. Mr. Miller is here. Mr. LaBelle? Here. Mr. Demink?
Here.
Mr. Leonard?
Here.
Mr. Renault?
Here.
Mr. Jaworski?
Here.
Mr. Klonowski?
Here.
Mr. Carr?
Here.
Mr. Brokart?
Here.
All are present. Approval of the minutes of prior meetings. I will make a motion to approve the minutes of May 7th, 2024.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Miller, supported by Mr. Demink. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Approval of the agenda. I will make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Miller, supported by Mr. Renault. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Public comments. We have a 3-minute time limit. If anybody would like to speak, please sign in at the podium.
There we go. Okay. Hello, my name is Mark Abraham, and I have a contract to purchase the Curtis Sod building at 28025 Hall Road, down near Jefferson, for anybody who doesn't know the address. And I would like to open it up as a cannabis provisioning center there. Unfortunately, I can't because the Curtis Sod building is only 911 feet from a residence, as the crow flies, which is how we use it to measure. Using the straight line method of measuring setbacks, the 1,000-foot setback lands directly in my parking lot, but on the wrong side of the building, right on our fence line, right next to another large building. So it's on the wrong side of the building, but the 1,000 feet does land on our property. The 40,000 square foot Keurig building to my west qualifies, yet it's only 30 feet from our building, the Curtis Sod building. 30 feet away, 40,000 square foot building, and it does qualify. So it's only 30 feet away, and it's certainly not a better retail choice or location than a 9,800 square foot M1 building that is Curtis Sod. We all talked about that in the meetings a year ago. We don't want to see 40,000 square foot buildings getting used for that, and I completely agreed. I thought the work that was done was incredible, and it's unfortunate that I came this close and I didn't. So here today I have a different ask. Our neighbor immediately to our west is Keurig, as I mentioned. And they're in the green zone. Everything to our west is to the green zone. Our neighbors to the north are 56 acres of woods. To our south is Selfridge, nobody's there. And to the east, which is our buffered area, is 22 acres of wetlands. On the other side of that 22 acres of wetlands is Field Street. And on Field Street, the first two houses on Field Street are what buffers us out. 1,000 feet away, two houses buffer us out. At the first Planning Commission meeting that I attended a year ago, I watched a debate regarding the Tombstone Brewery. 20 people showed up to express their concern about the brewery that shared a common fence with a residence. In the face of all that opposition, they were given the green light to move forward, and that building is beautiful, and I just drove by it on the way here. It looks great, and they're open for business. I thought it was a great decision. Today I'm asking for the absolute minimum. I am asking for the Planning Commission to reconsider the way that they measure buffers. I'm not asking for the distance to be changed to be smaller than 1,000 feet. I'm only asking for it to be a more fair way to do the measurement. And that fair way is the way that the Liquor Control Commission does it, where they take, instead of a line from the edge of the building to the property line that's being buffered, they go to the middle of the road in the front of the building and draw a line to the middle of the road in the front of the building. And I know you guys already know this, I'm just saying it out loud. That, I think, it's a much more fair way. I'm not asking to change 1,000 feet. I understand that hours and hours and days of work have been done on this subject, but I'm asking you to reconsider that. Right now, we're going across 22 acres of wetlands to get to this site. So I spoke to the two homeowners next door, and they both agreed. And in fact, one of them asked me if we would be delivering.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? If not, I'll move on to number 7, public hearings. There is none tonight. Number 8, regular agenda. Our secretary will do the reviews.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item A is Ultimate Framing Company, LLC, Site Plan 2023-15. They've asked for another extension of another 6 meetings to postpone making a decision on their drawings. With that, I'll make a motion to postpone for another 6 meetings.
Motion by Mr. LaBelle, supported by Mr. Leonard. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Item B is Jonah 222 LLC Site Plan 2024-07. It's zoned M1. It's a .86 acre parcel southwest corner of 26 Mile Road and Gratiot Avenue. Actually, it's on Precision Drive in the complex there. The parcel ID is 15-09-04-101-005. Their address is 56305 Precision Drive. Giffords Webster has provided us with their review. Stephanie, if you wouldn't mind spending a few moments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. LaBelle. Commissioners, we apologize. We provided an older letter in the packets. Cole came around and passed out the revised letter that matches the plans for the most recent plans that were provided by the applicant. So the Planning Commission is tasked with reviewing the plans and deciding whether the site meets the zoning ordinance standards and their intent. You'll see on the first page, there's a couple of required site plan revisions that can be handled administratively, and then there's also a few items for Planning Commission discussion. I'll walk you through those. Again, the applicant is proposing to build out a 4,800 square foot marijuana retail establishment. The proposal includes some minor internal renovations to the existing building, and 38 parking spaces are proposed. And the existing access road from Precision Drive is proposed to remain. All of the dimensional requirements and standards for the M1 district have been met. There are just 2 additional requirements shown kind of middle of page 3 that the Planning Commission may wish to discuss with the applicant, that being about odors and gases. And then we just will note that the applicant still needs to provide calculations for the expected usage of water and discharge, but that can be handled administratively. Looking at use standards, we'll draw your attention beyond the marijuana establishment section. Really everything there that's bolded will come in a later phase of the review process. So looking at site standards at the bottom of page 4, building surface materials is something that the Planning Commission may wish to discuss. The existing building is painted concrete black, and the applicant's proposing to keep that. Your ordinance requires that all facades visible from a street be brick or comparably durable decorative material, and another part of your ordinance prohibits materials that are painted. Additionally, with parking, they do provide the correct number of parking spaces. However, the maneuvering lane is shorter than it needs to be. The standard is 24 feet. The maneuvering lane is 20 feet, 1.5 inches. The layout is a 90-degree layout, and they proposed 20-foot long spaces, which could be reduced to 18 since they have a concrete sidewalk there on the north end of the parking spaces. Looking at ingress and egress, in addition to the maneuvering lane being not as wide as the standard requires, the ingress and egress is also a little short. 30 feet is required, and it's just over 28 feet. Bicycle parking, we just need a couple more details from the applicant about that in terms of the dimensions and the style to ensure it meets the standards. Middle of page 5, we have noted some that the Planning Commission may wish to discuss pedestrian circulation, including, and this is a new addition that came from our discussion earlier tonight, the clients that are leaving the building, the exit door moves right out into that maneuvering lane with no sidewalk there. And again, the maneuvering lane is not as wide as required. In terms of general landscaping, they do have a note that underground irrigation system must be installed, but you may wish to confirm that it will be installed. And in terms of parking lot landscaping, they have the correct number of trees on site, but most of them are clustered in the frontage. So the ordinance asks that, or requires that there be trees in the parking lot, and for parking lots with more than 20 spaces, they can have only up to 20% of the required interior parking lot trees at the edge, and currently all the trees are at the edge. According to the ordinance, one tree could be placed at the edge, the rest must be in parking islands, so that's something the Planning Commission might wish to talk to the applicant about. And then finally, on page 6, there's a note about lighting. I'll note that they do meet the photometric standards and ratios. They just have a math error that needs to be corrected on the sheet. But we do need to know the distance of the light poles from the curb to ensure compliance. I think that covers the points for Planning Commission consideration, but let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. Mr. LaBelle?
I did have an opportunity to speak with the applicant prior to the meeting. If the applicant wouldn't maybe give his thoughts or their thoughts on what was brought up this evening. Thank you.
That better? Yeah. Good evening. Zaid Erbo from ZA Design Build, representing the applicant. I worked on these drawings with the applicant, and as stated, this building is an existing split-face masonry, already painted structure. And of course, as stated, if that is not an allowed facade, then I have some ideas that I can present to you guys tonight to see if, in altering the existing facade, if it works. We're thinking that we can alter the elevations to show maybe a 3 to 4 foot culture stone base around the two sides, the front and the side of the building, with a limestone sill all the way around. And we would never use EIFS on buildings, but with it being a split-face building, we can propose lath and stucco if that's allowed, but we can also think of other materials that we can also use for the facade, again, for the two sides. In regards to the pedestrian, well, let me go back to the, first, let me step back to the ingress egress. It's at 28 feet. It wouldn't be a problem to widen it to 30. I just feel like the wider we go, the more we're sort of interfering with the first parking spot as you enter. And if the drive lane currently as it exists is 20 feet, or if I shorten the parking spots to 18, thus getting 22 feet, I feel like the 28 feet may be ample for two-way traffic to go back and forth. Now, in regards to pedestrian, we do have, so the way most of these dispensaries are set up, you come in from the front, you present your ID, you walk in, you do your business, and then you walk out a different door. We can mitigate and protect people by basically putting a couple bollards from where they're walking out from, and possibly a pedestrian path, eliminating 2 parking spots, creating a safe haven for them to be able to go to their cars. But then I would gain those 2 parking spots by just pushing the parking lot back a couple of feet. And possibly those 2 parking spots that we lose, we can put parking landscaping, maybe a couple of trees and some bushes around there, within the same method and tree planting as we have for the plan. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you. Mr. Demink? Mr. Brokart?
Jonathan, can you project sheet A1 for us? I want to talk about pedestrian safety. I like what you said about eliminating a couple of parking spots, putting in some bollards, providing a, I want us to look at it up here though, because it might be more than a couple bollards that you need.
Sure, I just don't want to put too many, we don't mind, we don't mind putting more bollards, obviously. Protection, I mean, people's safety comes before anything. I don't know how much room we have.
A1?
towards-
A1? What I'm going to ask you to do is point out where you want to eliminate the parking spots.
Sure.
And where you want to put the bollards.
Are we gonna get something on the screen?
I'm hoping.
Okay. I have another idea for the safety of the people. So the door is flush with the outside wall, and we're proposing bollards. There's like a 2 to 2.5 foot concrete curb. It's not really a walkway, it's kind of a curb where you step off from. That's already existing. I can always easily recess the interior of the building with a 5x5 handicap, sort of like a niche. So that's kind of where people are stepping out from, and then make that existing hollow metal door into just an opening. So as you step out, you're technically outside, but you're also protected from the new wall that we're designing, which will be of the same material as the culture stone and stucco, or hardy board, which is a cement board, as you know.
So the entrance is on the lower right-hand side.
Correct, on the right
Okay,
side.
and then you enter going right to left.
Yes, sir.
Your point of sale is kind of in the middle, and then you exit up at the top, say at 12
got it.
noon, right there.
And I can recess that. I can create a 5x5 sort of handicap haven.
Isn't there just a driveway going right to left right there?
Correct. There's like a 2.5 foot concrete curb, let's just call it. It's not really a walkway. And then you step down and you're right into the
So I'd love to see this all marked up with your ideas.
for sure.
I'm not in a position right now where I feel comfortable saying go ahead and do it without us seeing it.
Sure.
So from a safety perspective, I think that's a really good idea, what you have. I like what you said about providing ideas to improve the facade of the building, which is good. And then I think your odor elimination and HVAC looks good. So that's all I had. I'd like to see this, though. Your ideas on paper, please.
Yep, I'll redraw it on this plan, I'll redraw it on the architectural site plan, and I'll blow up a detail
Thank you.
showing, kind of the pattern for the pedestrians.
I'm all set, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Renault?
Yeah, I may have missed it, but the ideas you had for updating the facade of the building itself, I got the brick and the limestone ledge. What about the rest of the building?
So culture stone, the first 3 feet on both the south side, well, it's really the east side, so the side of the parking lot and the front side. Probably in the front, since we are already going to hire and retain a stone contractor, it makes sense that where the front door is, we'll raise a tower on both sides, and then continue with the 3 feet all the way across the side. Limestone sill, 4-inch, basically fastened with an angled iron, and then from there, you got the painted, exposed, split-face block. If stucco is allowed, I've done this before, it's not too hard on a split face. We put a lath, you put a little bit of mud, and then you stucco the rest. It's not really an ephes material. There is no application of that insulated material. If not allowed, stucco, then we can fur out, it's not easy, but you can fur out the split face and then finish it with hardy board, which is a cement board siding. I've done it before, it looks good. You get to the top, you cope it, and you paint it with some good accent colors, and then you got basically a brand new face on this building. Windows stay where they're at, doors stay where they're at, except for the new niche that we're going to create, of course.
Okay, and I look forward to seeing that updated on the plans.
And
Thank
that'll
you.
be revised as well.
Thank you. Mr. Carr?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the pedestrian safety, I think that was pretty well covered. I think your idea of recessing it probably is the right way to go. I also, I think that you should be, put at least one bollard, on the
On either
direction of
side,
the vehicles coming, right? Just to give them that extra protection in case somebody jumps that curb, right?
Correct.
So I think you're on the right track for that, so I think that's a good thing. Another thing regarding pedestrian safety is your photometrics, there's no light in the front of the building, and that's your main entrance. That photometric has to be adjusted so that there's ample light from the entrance of the building, especially if your hours are gonna be up till 9 o'clock at night. In winter hours, it's all gonna be dark, but if you look at your photometric, you'll see it's all blue in the front of the building, and that does have to be revised to provide a safe entryway for people. So I'll need to see an updated photometric adjusting that. I think the parking lot, as Gipple Webster said, I think that was sufficient, but the front entrance definitely has to be adjusted. I know we talked about the facade. I appreciate you volunteering the 2 sides, because that's what I was gonna propose at a minimum, is those 2 sides, and I think you do need to do the entire elevations of those 2. So however you'd like to do that, I mean, obviously it'd be great, you know, to see those elevations. I think you're on the right track, though, with the brick veneer, the stone coping, and the hardy board, not a stucco. So, but I mean, again, you could propose whatever you like, but I think you're on the right track with those materials. But definitely those 2 sides at a minimum need to be addressed, for sure. I do think you can look at your parking, because when it comes to traffic flow, the reason why we have minimum widths for 2 lanes, you know, for instance, 2-way traffic is 24 feet, 30 feet on the X. It's not just for vehicle flow, it's also for pedestrian safety, right? You're giving vehicles and people enough space to coexist, because people are going to be in the parking lot. So you can't, so don't think of it as just, hey, it's vehicles and they can get out. Yes, they can get out of a 28-foot, and yes, they can still maneuver within 20 feet, but it's the coexistence of both. So I would encourage you to take a look at your parking spots, because you can reduce them, you know, the length. So I think it'd be a good idea for you to just take a look at it, because if you can get the 24 feet, or at least closer to it, I would encourage that. Another question I had is, I see the loading zone on the back of the building. What's the largest size vehicle, you know, truck or delivery? Is it just
Box
like
truck.
box vans?
Box truck at the most,
Yeah, box trucks. Okay, that's the big deal then. Yeah, as long as it's just a box truck, it's probably the biggest thing you're gonna have is the dumpster, really, is garbage coming in for that. So I didn't foresee any issues.
I left ample room for that box truck to come in.
Yeah.
Pull back and go out.
Yeah,
Same
no,
with
you're good.
there's, I think, 40-some feet between those.
Yeah.
And I thought about putting an island there and putting some trees, but then it's gonna kill maneuverability for all these trucks.
Yeah, there it would, but again, as long as you got the box trucks, I do understand our ordinance, though, because we don't like just like big open lots. I mean, that one's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, as an architect, aesthetically, I do like to see the trees.
I agree 100%.
So, I mean, but I'm trying to, you know, be flexible and work with you on
Thank you.
some of the key things. So I think with that, the other thing I noticed too in your plans, and again, we're site plan, so I mean, the interior building really is on you. But I do look at the entire set anytime someone sends it in. And I did notice that you're reconfiguring the front of your building, right? You're just, you know, like the inside, you're removing
Minor
some walls,
alterations,
you're making
yep.
things bigger.
Yes.
But yet when you go to your electrical plans, you're only showing that you're upgrading the lighting in the center of the building. And then on the right side, your exact note is electrical in this area to remain the same, but I don't know how it can remain the same when you're demoing walls and building new walls. So something there seems to be a little off, because you're gonna have to redo your ceiling to some extent and your lighting, right? You're gonna be redoing lighting and circuitry of some type, so you might wanna just take a look at that,
Yeah,
because
I
it
think
makes
I meant-
sense to me.
I think I meant to say that the existing lighting fixtures are remaining as is, and they're being just shifted around slightly. We're keeping the same drop ceiling,
Yeah.
and as you remove walls, you know, you can reconfigure the Ts and
Yeah,
the
you
tiles.
can.
So we're not really proposing a whole
Yeah.
entire layout. I wanted to focus more on the middle portion, which is completely new.
Yeah, no, the center is, so, no, understood. Like I said, it was just an observation when I was looking at your lighting and
It's a good one,
everything. So, other than that, I'm good, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Mr. Jaworski? Mr. Klinowski?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment on, I did review of the information that was submitted. This seems to be a very responsible company from the submittal and from the presentation tonight. That just reinforced my view on your company. So
Thank you.
was told you hear from a couple of builders, and on the commission, I want to see what they say on the stone. It sounds like that's a good proposal. That's it for me.
Thank you. Mr. Leonard? Yes. Mr. Carr brought up about, so I think he said, did you want it, the stone all the way on all four sides, or still just on the front?
I just said. He offered up the two, and coming into the meeting, I was going to propose at a minimum to everybody, at least those two sides. He offered it, so I didn't push, I didn't, you know, I mean, obviously, I would prefer all four sides, but I know as a board, we're open to the backs of these buildings in M1 districts. I know we've allowed the back to be, you know, a CMU of some type, right?
Right,
Just,
the back is just a flat painted
Correct.
block, the other one's got the texture.
Yeah, exactly. It's got the
So-
textured stone, so that's,
Yeah, I'm not sure which way I'm feeling on that. I mean, seeing the front and the two sides up 3 feet with the stone would look nice. We haven't been using on the commercial applications, the hardy board or hardy plank. We've been using, I think it's pronounced Nahichi.
Nichi-Hai.
Nichi-Ha, it's a thicker,
It's a composite cement board. It's the same thing, just thicker.
right, it's thicker, it's more of a commercial application. So we have had that a couple of times that we've okayed that.
Sure.
So, you know, that, I'd be okay with that. So optimally, the front and the two sides with the culture stone would look great. And then whatever you come up with, we'll take a look at. I'm not going to push anything right now, but I like some of the ideas and the thoughts. So
Thank you.
that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. LaBelle?
Two more things that really haven't been talked about yet is, first of all, in our ordinance, the dumpster enclosure needs to be, you know, of like material to the building. As you have it drawn, it's just CMU, which I'm assuming will probably be painted or something. We don't like, as mentioned, Ed, you know, when I had an opportunity to talk to you earlier, we don't like painting block. Please consider that material. Maybe it can be some kind of a, you know, impregnated material that is, you know, that is pre-colored to match your building. Some kind of a, you know, a cement product. And the other thing is we briefly talked about the bike rack. We're encouraging bicyclists, sidewalks, bike racks, and I didn't see an actual drawing or a submittal of what you're proposing for your bike rack. So when you do come back, if you could please include what
Specs.
you're proposing for a
Absolutely.
bike rack.
Absolutely.
And then I just want to remind everybody is, you know, he had mentioned 3 to 4 feet of stone. I just don't want him to come back here and have something that we go, no, not enough, we want more. So now's our time. If we want it above the windows, as we've asked others to do, now's the time to, you know, talk about that rather than have him come back and then bring it up and he has to go back to the drawing board again. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller? Mr. Miller?
Yes, Mr. Demay.
Couple quick questions. This is retail only, correct?
Correct.
So no processing or manufacturing, because I noticed there was comments regarding odors and gases, so take it all your product will be packaged and sealed, so we shouldn't have to worry about anything with that from neighbors, correct? Okay. I'm definitely in agreement with changing the facade to some type of brick or stone like you guys brought up, and hopefully we can get with the applicant and figure what we want or how far up. I know we've been a stickler with the last one, and there were some issues, and then it was wrong on the print, and that one came back several times, so however you guys want to address that, I'm fine, but definitely it's got to be changed. It can't just be the painted brick or block, because we've never allowed that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any discussion on the front, how high we want that brick? That,
Mr. Chairman, if I may. I also had an opportunity, you know, when I was talking to the gentleman, to be consistent with what we've done in the past, we've asked people to at least go as high as the windows on the front of the building, which is, you know, whatever that elevation is, 8, 10 feet, whatever, 8 feet, 7 feet, whatever it is. I would certainly hope that you would consider that. You know, rather than just a 3 or 4 foot band, we've been asking others to go up higher.
Sure.
You know, above the doors, you know, but you're the architect. We're not gonna tell you how to build your building.
No, it's
But I
fine.
don't want you to come here and us say, no, we need more of this, we need more of that. we'd like to just do this one more time if we can.
No, it's fine. If a precedent has been set, when you say up to the windows, we're talking about the header of the window, right? Top of the window,
Correct.
not the sill. Yeah.
Correct.
Listen, 3 to 4 feet and where the top of the windows are, and that entire facade has a lot of windows and doors. So it's not that much more stone for the front only to go up to the top of the window, where the door is to go to the top of the roof to create a sort of a focal point. This is the entrance. And then to bring it back down on the side where there are no windows, just the one door, and carry the 3 feet across. I've always liked the number 3 feet. It's just, I feel like that's where this is, right? So the limestone sill should just hit, some people's, everyone's a little different, of course, but I feel like we can carry it 3 feet across the side where the parking lot is, come up to the top of the window in the front, and just where the door is, and flanking those 2 windows on the side, go up to the top. And that's where the sign is gonna end up being anyways.
As
more than
Mr.
likely.
Leonard said, he talked about the Nichiha board and, the different materials. We have been, we've been allowing more of that material just to get away from just the, the standard brick. And you as an architect, I'm sure you probably want to do something differently that, will really make the building stand out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. How long do you think it'll take for you to get these plans redrawn and back to the commission?
Probably early next week, just because there's Memorial Day weekend coming up, and, but how quickly do you want them? Let me just ask you that. Tomorrow?
No, but we need to know to schedule for another meeting.
Sure, I think I can get all these revised and back to you guys. The photometric study, I can get that message over to the guy tonight. He's the only one that's out of my office. Tuesday, next week.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. Sure. In order to give the applicant time to make the changes, the adjustments, there's just too many things that are going on here to do it administratively this evening. I'd like to make a motion to postpone making a decision up to 6 meetings.
We have a motion by Mr. LaBelle, supported by Mr. Carr. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Item C is Delta Concrete and Industrial Contracting Incorporated. The site plan is 2024-08. This building is actually on the same street as the previous applicant. It's M1. It's 3.99 acres, the south side of 26 Mile Road, west of Gratiot Avenue. The parcel ID is 15-09-04-202-014. The address is 56462 Precision Drive. The applicant is here this evening, and Mr. Palin, if you would like to go over your letter that you had written.
Sure. Yeah, so Giffords Webster did do the initial review of this project, the full review, which highlighted, it's in addition to an existing building, approximately 16,000 square feet and an additional parking lot of 81 parking spaces. They did outline some deficiencies in the plans. What I did, the applicant did submit revised plans and a narrative along with that. So I went through and verified that the changes were made. So a lot of it was, I would say, minor and stuff on the plans to be removed or dimensions being added. I don't know that we need to go through all of those because they have been updated on the plan to show they meet the ordinance. So I did verify. The important things are that they did provide the additional 2 parking spaces to meet the ordinance requirement. They did alter the driveway width to 30 feet and then added the sidewalk. A couple other important things to note on the plans is they did add a note for no outdoor storage, and they did show some phasing, but this is just for the phase 1. If you were to grant approval, it would be for that, and for any future phases, they'd have to come back. But with that, I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. DeBay?
If the applicant would mind stepping up to the podium, please.
Hi, David Richardson with Delta.
Mr. Chairman, if I may? Sure. The one question that I do have is, there is currently, I call it a salt dome behind the existing building. It's a structure that is, it almost looks like a temporary structure. It's an arc shape with, what is your plans with that? Because I don't see it on your revised drawings, that being on the drawings. Are you eliminating that, or what are you doing?
I'm going to bring the Bob Hill from Solar to address that item.
Yes, thank you. Currently, we are in dire need of space. That's why we want to contract with Delta to build this additional building. Yes, that is just temporary until this building is built.
So it's going to go away?
Yes.
Thank you. That's my only question. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Mr. Brokart?
I'd like to make a motion. Too soon?
Mr. Carr has a question.
I'm all set.
Yeah, I do have, no, I didn't see anything with, like truck turning radiuses and everything. And so, looking at the layout, it'd be nice to know how, because I noticed right in the middle of your, if you say the backyard, back of the building, you now have like a secondary containment area where you have, tanks, that are going to be there. And then I see the truck dock that's extending, you know, for 2 loading docks. What I don't see is how trucks, and I assume they're gonna be, you know, 18-wheelers, you know, 53-foot trailers with cabs, how are they coming in and out of your site? Because it seems really awkward to me, without seeing turning radiuses and studies and all that stuff to understand how it's being done.
Yeah, so they're gonna come off the east side, come north around the existing tank pad, make that turn and back into the truck well.
And then they're gonna be going.
And then they
out.
will exit out the proposed new drive to the west.
How often are those tanks serviced? Like, you know, filled and?
The question is, how are they filled?
How often, yeah, how often?
How often?
Yeah,
Yeah, so they're liquid nitrogen and liquid argon, and we have gaseous hydrogen. And I would say on average, probably 1 time to 2 times a month, the trucks do come in. And once we have that access straight through, it'll be much easier for the filling of those. They're on gas pads with all enclosed with fencing.
okay. And
It's
the
a
park-
raised gas pad, by the way.
That's, I'm sorry, what?
It's raised.
That
It's a-
is raised?
Yes, a raised gas pad.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like it's got like walls. Is it like a secondary containment of some type?
No, that's just the raised pad, and then there's quite a few bollards on the outside of
Just
that.
because I see a double line. I mean, that's how it shows on the plan. So I'm thinking the double line is, so it's just a
Maybe it's the
flat
fencing?
pad
What's that?
that, you said it's elevated? How high
Yes.
is it elevated off the ground?
You build it. There are steps going up, so it's got to be 3 foot in
Yeah.
elevation.
I don't know, I don't see any steps on your plans.
There are steps.
Bottom right-hand corner, I don't know, I'm looking at the site plan. Bottom right-hand corner. Am I missing something? No, is it? On a landscaping plan, not the civil plan? Usually I look at trees on landscaping plans. Oh, the landscaping plan. Let's see. Liquid gates. Which plan did you say, Mr. LaBelle? A2, L1, yeah, I'm looking at L1, that's where I was. Yeah, I see an arrow. Okay, so that's a elevated platform? Concrete platform, I assume, then,
Concrete,
right?
Correct, yeah.
Yes, the north side has probably 1 step up. The south side has about 2 steps. We had to
Okay.
do that for the deliveries of
So it
the,
must be like a guardrail around the whole thing then?
There's bollards and then fencing.
Chain link fence around the whole thing?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So the truck's gonna come in, go around that, stop, fill those tanks. But if they're going to loading dock, they'll just do the U shape around there, come, and then back in. That's the plan, and then go straight out. And those parking spaces on the back, that must be employee parking, I assume, right? The parking spaces back there, they're
On the
employee
backside
parking?
there? Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The only other thing I had, I mean, it's always hard not to see a turning radius study, but, you know, but, the other thing is, the building elevations and the materials, we're fine with those? Because I was pretty surprised with that.
Mr. Palin, the building material?
I mean, at least looking at the north and the, you know, well, at least the north, I'm thinking like the north and the west elevations, I'm surprised that we're okay with those. That was my other comment. It's not typical for what we do, not on the front of the building. The entire existing building's all brick. And what they're proposing is a little wainscoting with some siding above it. So I'm surprised that.
Mr. Palin?
Yeah, I didn't review that portion of it. That was in the Giffords review, but as they had pointed out, the existing building is brick on the full precision drive facade and brick with metal panel on the remaining elevations. The proposed addition will match the brick and metal facades. So the planning commission may wish to confirm materials on the addition, primarily those facing precision drive.
Yeah, because when you look at that structure has 3 elevations, all 3 are different. Like, there's no consistency. The north elevation has like half brick, half metal siding, which we typically never allow the metal siding. And then when you go around right adjacent to that in the west, it's all metal siding, no brick, no nothing, which again faces precision, but now it's a second different elevation. And then when you come around the back, it's then block and metal siding. So it's a third different elevation and materials. And also it says 8-inch CMU painted, which we do not allow painted. So I'm just bringing that to the commission's attention because from my perspective, I'm not comfortable with that. That's not, doesn't meet our ordinance or our standards, and to me needs to be revised. So that's my thoughts, Mr. Miller.
Thank you. Any questions on this end? Mr. Jaworski? I support Mr. Carr. Mr. Klinowski?
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Carr on this.
Mr. Leonard? Same, I agree. Mr. Lavelle?
Mr. Miller, quick
Yes.
question, and this just may be something, I don't know if I misheard Mr. LaBelle earlier. When he was reading off the description of the project, you'd said the parcel ID ended in 014, but when I was doing the review, it has 2 parcels that end in 12 and 13. I didn't see a 14. I just want to make sure we're all talking about the same one.
Parcel 14?
I thought that's what I heard you say when you were reading in the beginning. Okay. Yeah, because on the site plan review, it has 12 and 13. So again, just want to make sure we're all reviewing the same thing.
So can we make a decision on the brick and stuff administratively, Jonathan? On the,
I mean, that's the planning commission's decision, what you want to see on the building. So, I mean, if you guys decide on what you're looking to see, we can review that administratively, but you need to be specific on what you're looking for.
okay,
Even the metal panel. I mean, they're gonna have to propose what kind of metal panel. We've only allowed metal panel very rarely, and usually it's the, you know, a little more higher end that we know, because that's just a typical sandwich pan on it. I mean, I don't know, we'd have to see it. Typically, we've only allowed it a couple times. One was on that car wash on Hall Road, and Again, it's up for debate. I'm just saying we typically don't allow the metal panel, which I'm open to the metal panel. Just not saying I'm against it. But right now, usually the front elevation has to be brick or better, at least facing the front, which means those two sides. And then the back side, regardless, they can put the block, but it cannot be painted. It has to be an impregnated CMU block. So, I mean, so as long, if everyone's comfortable on leaving that administratively, I don't know how we can though, because that metal siding, if we're going to allow it, they have to provide details of that metal siding and what type of metal siding it is. And if we're comfortable with it, because technically it doesn't meet our ordinance right now, which means we have to approve that material. And I don't know what that is. There's a million different, there's a ton of different insulated metal panels, and some of them are really cheap. So I don't know what he's proposing. So, I mean, I can't approve, I mean, myself, I don't have enough information on their materials. So I don't know. I mean, I'm open, but
Yeah, if I may, the west elevation there was proposed keeping in mind that Solar Atmospheres plans a second phase 2 building addition, which would be off that west elevation. So we thought that we would at least propose it and see what you guys think. But that would just make their future expansion easier down the road.
Understood.
Weren't we instructed not to take in consideration phase 2?
No, and we don't. I was gonna clarify that, but I understood that.
Yeah.
And I knew that's why you did it, but we can't count on future things.
Sure.
Economy drops, go out, I mean, there's a million things we can't take into consideration, so.
Sure.
We have to look at the plans you have right now, and this is your proposal right now. To me, it doesn't meet the intent of our ordinance, so I mean, that's all I can comment on. It's not a personal thing, it's just, it doesn't meet our ordinance, that's all. So, I mean, those are my recommendations and my concerns. So, but if someone wants to make a motion, that's fine.
Before you do that, if we just carried that around, because we knew this might be something that you're concerned with, if we take and do the west side in brick and just bring that around, the same as the north side, do the west side, and eliminate that siding and take it to brick, so that you have those two faces. And then again, with the block, if it's impregnated, if that's what you want, that's not an issue either. Right. We surely can go along with that. So bricking the west side, and then we'll do a color block on the back side.
What type of panel is it? Give me the manufacturer that you're using. I'm just curious. I mean, like.
Yeah, the manufacturer is all-weather insulated panels, so it's a 3-inch IMP panel. Standard, what they call a Mesa profile, which just has a slight rib to it.
Okay.
It matches a lot of the other buildings that are in that industrial park currently.
So it's just, so that metal panel, it sandwiches together, right? And then, so that what I'm looking there is just a seam, I take it, right? And that's why it's vertical, or is it actually ribbed?
Yeah, just the seam.
Just the seam.
Yeah.
And it has like an embossed finish, or is it smooth finished?
On that, the exterior is a smooth finish.
Smooth finish?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess, as long as in your motion, because you're the good one at it, as long as you have it where, the CMU is not painted and it's an impregnated color from the factory, and then and they carry around the brick on the west elevation. I'm comfortable with that. A 3-inch panel is not bad. I mean, that's good.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Mr. Brokart, did you,
Mr. Brooker was starting to make a motion.
right?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Carr on this one.
I personally would like to see it, the plans updated. I mean, sorry that you might have to go through the trouble and delay, but, I mean, we've been in situations where we've asked for things and they just don't appear, so personally, I'd like to see it on paper.
Thank you. Anybody else?
The only physical change that I see is to the west elevation with the brick. The rest of it's gonna be the same other than identifying the product. And if we are real specific with the products, you know, the metal panel and the block, and we can get that on, in writing, I think administratively, we're not looking at anything different other than the west with all the brick. I'd be okay that the wording was updated specifically to what we're looking for, and the only appearance change would be on the west side. I'd be okay with that. If, you know, if anybody else thought the same, instead of putting it off and redrawing everything.
And this is something, we could have those elevations updated tomorrow morning.
I don't mean to overstep you, Mr. Burkhardt. Did you still want to make the motion, Mr. Burkhardt?
Yeah, I think I'm going to make a motion.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
The Planning Commission's reviewed the plans along with Giffords Webster, the civil engineering company. There were 8 deficiencies noted earlier on 5.6. On 5.14, all 8 deficiencies were addressed. I'd like to recommend approval of the Phase 1 expansion requested, but I'd also like to add that you guys are going to revise the CMU, make it natural, not painted, and add a brick facade, and with, to the west elevation. So if you provide the metal siding and materials for the proposal for us to take a look at,
Of course.
I'd like to make a motion to approve that.
I'll support that. We have a motion by Mr. Brokart. Supported by Mr. Leonard. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, everyone.
Presentations, reports, and discussion. 9A is Planner's Report. Stephanie?
Good to be back with you all. Just wanted to note that Jonathan, Mr. Siebert, and I have, and Cole and Jill have all been working on putting together a training for you. So Jonathan will reach out about the best time, whether we'll do it before a meeting or just at a different date than our normal meeting days. So keep an eye out for that email. Do you have anything to add about that?
No, I'll send something out first thing in the morning, so if you guys just keep an eye on your email and get back to me, the sooner I hear from everybody, the sooner we can get it set up, and we definitely would like everyone to be there, so we want to try and just make sure that everyone's available.
Thank
I
you.
have a question on that. Is this gonna be, I assume, during the week? This training, and is it gonna be in the evening?
I'm thinking like Sunday morning, 8 a.m.? No,
We do
yeah.
it at 7 a.m.
I don't have an 8 on my alarm clock.
No, we either look before, like a regular meeting, or there's, a 5th Tuesday, which is always beneficial for everybody that has Tuesday meetings. So I'll send out a few dates, but a typical time, maybe like a 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., but.
And it's just a one evening thing for a certain amount of hours?
Yeah, I would think an hour.
Oh, okay.
Short, but it will be fun.
I like fun. Let's bring the beer.
Anybody else? Number 10 is planning commissioners' comments. Mr. Demink?
Thanks for all of you guys being here. I appreciate the information. Sorry I missed the last meeting, but I was in DC with the Unity Tour. And I wish you all have a happy and safe Memorial Day weekend.
Thank you. Mr. Brokart?
I'm all set, thanks.
Mr. Renault?
As I stated to you earlier, I will not be at the next meeting, June 4th. I will be in DC. So,
Thank you.
other than that, have a good holiday.
Thank you, Mr. Carr.
Nothing new, thanks.
Mr. Jaworski? Mr. Klinowski? Mr. Leonard?
Just briefly, I sent out a text message, I forgot at the last meeting to bring it up. Sent out a text message to the members. I'm involved with the Selfridge Air Base Space Community Council. We've got the air show coming up, and if anybody, I've got a couple of members on the commission that have volunteered to work a shift selling programs. We're gonna have 6 tents. You get to enjoy the show, the air show, which is free. You'd be positioned in a tent either in the morning or afternoon shift. We're gonna have 2 to 3 people per tent. If anybody's interested in any of that, just let me know as soon as possible. We are a little short-handed, but we're filling up those positions, so if there's an interest, let me know. Thank you.
You could bring your whole family and they could all watch the air show, Brian. You know, you have little kids, they would enjoy that. Anybody else? Mr. LaBelle?
Common question, looking for volunteers for pre-planning. Mr. Leonard and
Anybody else?
Mr. Burkhardt.
There's nothing
And
else?
then, one more thing is, the gentleman has now left, but he brought up the 1,000-foot distance from the home. Just, we should have answered his question. This is our opportunity to answer his question, but he's not here, so, thank you.
With that being said, I'll make a motion to adjourn at 7:56. We have a motion by